You will notice I've been abandoned. No, I am by myself today. And mihana kia huhana, yes, there are some people who are tuned in watching some family compete right now at Te Matatini, so I will represent Ngai Tai Tamaki. So mihana kia koutou ngā mema o tēnei komiti, tēnā koutou, thank you for having me, Mr. Chair. So in the context of Ngai Tai Tamaki, i te horapaki o Ngai Tai Tamaki here i tēnei o te whatatau rawa ko te rau kohikohe. I whakapapa also to Ngāti Mahanga Horua, Ngāti Pāwa, Ngāti Kauwhata, and then probably the Isles of the United Kingdom and Scandinavia and Eastern Europe, like I would imagine a massive blend of New Zealanders do. So my name is Jada McPhee, and I'll be representing the Ngai Tai Tamaki Trust this afternoon. So thank you for the opportunity to speak. So I'll be speaking to the submission made by the Ngai Tai Tamaki Trust, where we stated our opposition to this bill. It is our hope and our expectation that the bill has not progressed any further beyond these hearings. Each submission that we've made to the Crown over the last 12-ish months has contained, I would suggest, a relatively long preamble that we consider to be whakawhanaungatanga, or an opportunity to be a relationship tool for those receiving these submissions and ultimately for you as committee members. We do not assume that everyone has worked with us before or know who we are as an iwi, where we come from. So while we appreciate that context and history that we repeat with every submission we make can be repetitive, and we consider it necessary. So I'm just going to start with some commentary in addition to our submission, assuming that it is read. And I'll open by saying it is disappointing to be here, in a sense that we find ourselves having to be in front of a select committee to oppose what we consider to be an attack on the treaty principles, and further on Te Tiriti o Waitangi. Ngai Tai Tamaki as an iwi, we've fought too hard and too long over the years. We have struggled and we have toiled, in some cases exhausting both pūtea, personal hauora. Most recently, we've worked ourselves into early graves to ensure that the Crown and its agents and its governments have acknowledged the whānau that's been committed against our tupuna, or against us, and the multiple broken promises which continue long after settlement's concluded. So our settlement was wrapped up in 2018. It was sorely won. It is unsatisfactory on many levels. It's still in negotiation in some parts. But despite that, we continue to work with the Crown. We've had to hold the Crown to account in the courts of this land, and in some cases the highest court, to remind the Crown of our rights under Te Tiriti, which would allow us to move forward. We believe we're not yet in a place, however, contrary to colloquial rhetoric, that we as Māori are privileged above everyone in this country. We do not believe that we get to experience the full privilege of living in a country that has Te Tiriti o Waitangi as a foundational constitutional document. We have, under Te Tiriti, opened the doors and welcomed everyone, and acknowledging the earlier comments around being a people of Manaaki. We welcomed everyone in from across the globe. This is living proof of that, yet we continue to be marginalised. And while that foundation continues to be repeatedly shaken by members of the Crown, this will continue. It's 2025. And we believed ourselves to be long past 1850s philosophies. It makes me think, when I was writing this process, of Dr. Isaac Featherston and his smoothing of dying pillows, because we as a people were supposed to be dead. From that same era, our tupuna were encouraged to be good Māori and to participate in the system and to use the newly formed court systems and Māori land court, and yet our tupuna's minutes went missing from these court documents immediately when they were to be used and judged and ruled. We were encouraged to manaaki and welcome settlers. We were encouraged to fly the Union Jack to encourage trade and our willingness to participate. Ngai Tai Tamaki did that. And we were wrongly accused of inciting open rebellion, and it was a beautiful excuse to confiscate, in one example alone, 51,000 acres of prime Tamaki Makaurau whenua. So our parents, my grandparents, my great-grandparents, and beyond, they've spent generations navigating governments of the day and their various different appetites to acknowledge and accept historical breaches and to move them into legislation. But I would say it's fair to assume that in this room, we all know that what's provided for in those settlement acts are neither fair nor just or equal to what was lost. We accept that, but I just wanted to highlight some of the bits I think that are really pertinent to this whole process. In Section 9 of our Settlement Act, so the Ngai Tai Tamaki Claims Settlement Act 2018, the Crown repeatedly acknowledges that it has failed and records multiple grievances. The Crown acknowledged it's failed in its duty to act fairly and reasonably towards Ngai Tai Tamaki. The Crown stated it had breached Te Tiriti o Waitangi and its principles. The Crown apology, which we have signed and framed and hung up as you walk into our whare tupuna at Umapuia Marae, it states that the Crown broke its promise to protect your interests, that it confiscated your whenua and promoted policies which had devastating economic, social and cultural consequences for Ngai Tai Tamaki. And it then went on to say, I think hopefully, that the Crown hopes that this settlement will lead to a new relationship that fulfills the expectations of our tupuna and mokopuna, a relationship marked by cooperation, partnership and respect for Te Tiriti o Waitangi and its principles. This process leads me to think, really? So we're highlighting to you all that given Te Tiriti o Waitangi has been described in case law as a partnership, requiring both parties to act with the utmost good faith, the proposition of this bill to amend the treaty principles is considered by us to be a breach of good faith. And it demonstrates to us that perhaps the words on the apology hold very little value to the Crown right now. So no one can claim it is good faith to write a bill about how to engage with and relate to Māori, limiting the rights of Māori without Māori in the room. This bill was crafted about us, without us, which is absolutely unjust, and I would say farcical, and almost as farcical as recent commentary that our reaction is over-dramatic, because this is just an idea and a factory of ideas called politics. When an idea is moved like this into action, This action is received by some as a bit of a thumbs up to espouse anti-Māori rhetoric and racism, and we've moved beyond politics and the sharing of ideas into what we consider causing harm. And where a partner repeatedly causes harm, we would call that an abusive relationship. And in an abusive relationship, one of the actions would be to take that offending partner to court. So we would just like to put the Crown on notice that we are watching and we are waiting, that we have acted in good faith. We believed what was presented to us, that we were entering into this new relationship. So we would ask this committee to please show us that we've not misplaced that faith. Please abandon this bill.
Thank you, Jada. Thank you for your submission on behalf of Ngai Tai. Let's go to some questions. The first one from Huhana Lynn.
Tēnā koe Jada, e mihi atu ana kia koe te rangatira, te tumu whakarai o Ngai Tai ki Tamaki, me te mihi ki te wharia matua Billy, me ngā mahi nui ko Aotea matua James. To our select committee members, our colleague Tama Pōtaka was the CEO of Ngai Tai ki Tamaki, and now we have before us the rangatira of Ngai Tai, Jada, this wahine toa. And I want to acknowledge the sincere way that you have put forward your concerns, particularly around the settlement and the apology received. The question is, when you have a Crown apology and it's on the wall in Umupuia, in the whare, and then you come and you see acts of the Crown undermining that apology and those sentiments of good faith that you hear in the whare when there's the settlement legislation passed through the House, how is the iwi feeling at a board level but also on the ground?
I think it's fair to say that we are feeling frustrated and disappointed that we're potentially finding ourselves in litigation again. We're not afraid of litigation. People who know us know this. And at the same time, we are prepared to fight to ensure that we keep, as we do our own selves accountable, that our partner, the Crown, accountable as well. So there's been a bit of a rallying, I think, around this particular bill. Thank you.
Thanks, Jada. Thanks, Huhana. That's probably the time we've got this afternoon. So just on behalf of the committee, I'd like to thank you for presenting on behalf of your team. And
love it.
Yeah. Another full-on submission.
Well, I think every single one of them is full on due to the full onness of the bill itself. Right?
Oh yeah, the bill that is 1 page long that was so short it's not funny.
Yeah, I really like that she brought up the settlement, and the reason why is because at the moment you might have noticed that National was trying to draw this distinction between settlements and what they're doing everywhere else to Te Tiriti or Waitangi, right? So they're saying, oh no, we're definitely going to respect the final settlement. Settlements, all good. We love settlements. And remember, the reason why folks like National love settlements is because they want to wrap up all of the Māori grievances, tie them up with a bow and say, it's done now. You cannot bring any of your injustice forward ever again. And so there's a real political motivation to have us all perfectly settled, and then you don't hear from the natives ever again. But what was talked about here by Jada just so beautifully and eloquently is she's saying, what you're doing right now affects our settlements. And we will take you to court over it because that's just what needs to happen. So I felt like she really drew a connection that hasn't been done as often in the media, at least.
And actually, the one I found interesting was using the term that's equivalent with domestic violence of an abusive partner.
Right.
Yeah, that was something that I thought was very bold to say.
Absolutely, and completely true. If that was a relationship and this government was carrying on like how they are, absolutely it's an abusive relationship. So
they won't be in the family court having a protection order put against them.
Absolutely, I think.
Well, I can picture how it would go, but yeah. Next we got Josh Jameson.
Thanks for watching. Make sure you're subscribed to our Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, TikTok.